I always thought our honeymoon would be the best time of our lives. Sunny beaches, romantic dinners, and that sweet feeling of just being married. My wife, Jessica, and I had been together for 3 years before deciding to tie the knot. We met in college, and after countless late-night study sessions, movie marathons, and shared dreams about the future, I knew we were meant to be. However, as we boarded the plane to Hawaii, I couldn't shake off a nagging feeling that something was off. It started with little things, like Jessica being glued to her phone more than usual, texting late at night, and suddenly becoming secretive about her social media. At first, I chalked it up to her excitement about the wedding and the honeymoon. But now, in the middle of paradise, I felt that uneasiness creep back in. We arrived in Maui, and while the scenery was breathtaking, our connection felt strained. At dinner on our first night, instead of the romantic banter, she seemed distracted, her laughter forced. I tried to brush it off, but deep down I could feel something was off. It was like we were on two different wavelengths. On the third day, a moment changed everything. We were relaxing on the beach, and I decided to take a stroll to clear my head. As I walked, I caught a glimpse of her phone, which she had left on the towel. My heart raced as I picked it up, feeling guilty but compelled to see what could be hidden behind that screen. When I unlocked it, yes, I shouldn't have done that, I saw a series of messages from a guy named Mark. They were flirtatious, full of emojis, and ended with a time and place that made my stomach drop. He was someone she had been hanging out with before the wedding. I felt sick. My world shattered in an instant. How could she do this to me? I knew I had to confront her, but part of me wished I could be ignorant and just enjoy the vacation. But ignorance was no longer an option. I headed back, my heart pounding, and found her sipping a cocktail, her laughter ringing out, a sound that now felt like nails on a chalkboard. "Jess, can we talk?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Her eyes narrowed slightly, sensing the shift in the air. "Sure, what's up?" she replied, her tone casual but her body language tense. I took a deep breath before dropping the bombshell. "I saw the text on your phone. Who is Mark?" Her smile faded, replaced by an expression that was a mix of shock and annoyance. "What are you talking about? You went through my phone. That's so invasive," she retorted, crossing her arms defensively. At that moment, all the anger I felt boiled over. "Invasive? You're cheating on me, Jess. You're texting another guy while we're on our honeymoon. How can you even call that privacy?" She rolled her eyes, and for a split second I saw a glimpse of the woman I fell in love with, but it quickly vanished. "Mark is just a friend. You're overreacting. You know how guys are, they're just jealous of our happiness," she said, her voice rising defensively. "Just a friend," I shot back, feeling incredulous. "You call that flirting? Why didn't you tell me? This isn't just a friendship anymore." "I didn't think it mattered," she snapped. "It's not like you're perfect either. You could have done more to make me feel special." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. It felt so unfair. I had poured my heart into our relationship, and now she was trying to turn the blame on me. The betrayal stung like salt in an open wound. As the conversation escalated, I realized I was no longer just dealing with a cheating spouse. I was confronting a person I barely recognized, someone who could twist reality to fit her narrative. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have ever imagined, and in that moment I felt a mixture of anger, sadness, and disbelief. I decided then and there that I needed to take time for myself. If she could betray me so easily, I had to reevaluate everything. But I didn't want to run home just yet. After all, I was in Hawaii, and it was time to reclaim my freedom. Even if it meant being alone in paradise, I was determined to turn this betrayal into a liberation. My head was spinning as I walked away from her, leaving her sitting there with a cocktail in hand. I had no idea how I was going to navigate the rest of this trip, but one thing was clear: I wasn't going to let her destroy me. I was going to take control of my own story, starting now. As I left Jessica sitting there, the beauty of Maui around me felt like a cruel joke. The sun was shining, surfers were riding the waves, and couples were holding hands, whispering sweet nothings. It was supposed to be our paradise, but instead it had turned into a battlefield. I wandered down the beach, the sand warm beneath my feet, but my heart felt heavy like lead. I needed space to process everything that had just happened. I didn't want to sulk in our hotel room, where the echoes of our fight would linger like an unwelcome guest. I found a secluded spot further down the beach, under a palm tree, where I could breathe and think. The sound of the waves crashing soothed my racing thoughts, but a storm brewed inside me. The betrayal twisted like a knife in my gut. I had entrusted Jessica with my heart, and she had shattered it. I couldn't help but replay our past in my mind, the late-night talks, the promises we made, and the dreams we shared. The thought that she was able to casually flirt with another guy while pretending everything was fine between us made me sick. But amidst the swirling emotions came a realization. I had the power to reclaim my narrative. I wasn't going to let her betrayal define me. I began to think about what I could do during the rest of this trip. Instead of wallowing in sadness, I decided to explore the island. I needed to rediscover myself without the weight of Jessica's lies dragging me down. With newfound determination, I headed back to the hotel and grabbed my car keys. I was going to take a solo drive around the island, something I had wanted to do but always thought it would be better with Jessica. It felt oddly liberating. I hopped into the convertible, cranked up the music, and drove along the scenic coast. The wind whipped through my hair, and for the first time in days, I could feel a hint of freedom creeping back in. As I drove, I stopped at various attractions, taking in the beauty of the island. I visited waterfalls, hiked through lush greenery, and even dipped my toes into the ocean by myself. Sights were breathtaking, but more importantly, I was rediscovering my own happiness, separate from the pain Jessica had caused. Later that evening, I found myself at a beachside bar, nursing a drink as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. I sat at the bar alone, watching the waves crash and the stars begin to emerge. The bartender, a friendly local named Kai, struck up a conversation with me. "You look like you're a million miles away, my friend. What's on your mind?" he asked, pouring me another drink. I hesitated but then decided to spill a little. "Just dealing with some relationship drama. I thought this would be a honeymoon, but it's turned into, well, not that." Kai raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Honeymoon gone wrong, huh? I've seen it all, man. But sometimes it's the unexpected turns that lead to the best adventures." His words resonated with me. Maybe this trip could be more than just a painful reminder of what I had lost. Maybe it could be a journey of self-discovery. As the night wore on, I met a few fellow travelers and ended up sharing stories. Over laughter and drinks, I found myself loosening up, enjoying the company of new friends. They were all on their own adventures, seeking fun and freedom, and I realized I could do the same. Late into the night, I returned to the hotel, feeling lighter than I had in days. I couldn't erase the betrayal Jessica had inflicted on me, but I could choose how to respond. Instead of wallowing in despair, I was reclaiming my happiness. I made a point to focus on myself, explore the island, and find joy in my own presence. The next day, I woke up energized, ready to embrace whatever the day had in store. I planned on going snorkeling, something I had always wanted to do. I wanted to dive into the blue waters, see vibrant fish, and be enveloped by the beauty of the ocean. This was my time, a solo adventure that would help me heal. Little did I know, the journey of self-discovery was just beginning. What I didn't realize was that Jessica's actions would not only lead me to confront the depths of betrayal, but also to discover the strength within myself that I never knew existed. I was starting to see this betrayal not as an end, but as a catalyst for change. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of determination I hadn't felt in days. I tossed aside thoughts of Jessica and her betrayal, focusing instead on what I wanted to explore. I had booked a snorkeling tour, eager to dive into the vibrant underwater world of Maui. After a quick breakfast, I slipped on my swimsuit and made my way to the harbor, excited to immerse myself in something new. As I arrived, I was greeted by the tour guides, all full of energy and enthusiasm. They handed me gear, and I felt a rush of adrenaline at the prospect of swimming among coral reefs and colorful fish. The boat ride was exhilarating. The wind whipped against my face, and the sound of laughter filled the air as fellow travelers chatted and bonded. For the first time in days, I felt a flicker of joy. When we reached the snorkeling spot, I jumped into the water, fully embracing the freedom of the moment. The ocean enveloped me, the cool water refreshing as I dove beneath the surface. I was immediately struck by the beauty of the underwater world, the vibrant coral reefs, schools of fish darting around, and the sheer tranquility of being submerged in blue. In that moment, I felt a sense of liberation, as if every stroke of my arms pushed away the hurt Jessica had caused. I spent hours swimming, exploring, and laughing with other snorkelers. It was a stark contrast to the turmoil dwelling in my heart just days prior. I could hear the guides calling out the names of various fish, but all I could focus on was how alive I felt. I was no longer just the husband who had been cheated on. I was a person rediscovering joy, and it was intoxicating. After the snorkeling tour, I joined a few travelers for lunch at a nearby beachside shack. We shared stories, laughter, and a few drinks. It was refreshing to be around people who didn't know about my past or the betrayal that loomed over my marriage. They only knew me as the guy who was enjoying the beautiful scenery and soaking in the moment. I needed that anonymity, the chance to be someone new, someone unburdened. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the horizon, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for this trip. It was becoming a transformation rather than just a painful reminder of my broken marriage. I was slowly evolving, shedding the weight of Jessica's betrayal and embracing my newfound independence. However, as the days passed, the reality of my situation began to creep back in. I couldn't ignore the fact that I was still married, and Jessica was still at home, likely spinning her own narrative about what happened. I had put off the inevitable conversation about our relationship, but it was looming like a dark cloud over my newly discovered freedom. On the fifth day of my solo adventure, I found myself at a secluded beach, the waves crashing softly against the shore. I set up a towel and sat down, allowing the sun to warm my skin. The peaceful ambience was comforting, but my mind wandered back to Jessica. I thought about how she must be feeling, and a part of me felt guilty for enjoying my time when she was likely back home, anxious and confused. That evening, I made the decision to call her. It was time to confront the reality of our situation. I needed closure one way or another. As I dialed her number, my heart raced. I had no idea what to expect, whether she would be angry, remorseful, or defensive. I was prepared for any of it, but I hoped for clarity. When she picked up, her voice was tense. "Hello, Mark." "Hey, Jess, it's me," I replied, trying to keep my tone calm. "We need to talk." There was a pause, and I could hear her breathing on the other end. "Is this about the honeymoon?" she asked, her voice defensive. "Yes, it is. I just need to understand what happened. Why did you betray me?" Her response was immediate, as if she had been rehearsing for this moment. "You're making it seem like I did something terrible. It was a mistake. I didn't think it would go anywhere. I just needed some excitement." "Excitement? You had excitement, Jess. We were on our honeymoon. How could you throw that away for a fling?" I tried to keep my voice steady, but anger bubbled just beneath the surface. "I wasn't thinking. You were so focused on everything being perfect that I felt neglected." Mark gave me attention. "I didn't mean for it to happen, and I know I messed up. Can't we just move past this?" "Move past it?" I felt a mixture of disbelief and despair. "You betrayed my trust. I don't know if I can just ignore that." Her tone shifted, becoming defensive again. "You're making this into a bigger deal than it is. We can fix this. We can go to counseling or something." The thought of counseling made my stomach turn. How could I sit in a room with her and discuss our issues when one of the biggest issues was her infidelity? I took a deep breath, realizing I needed to protect myself. "I need time, Jess. I can't come back and pretend everything is fine. I need to figure out what I want," I said firmly, holding back the hurt in my voice. "Fine, but don't take too long. I'm still your wife," she shouted, and the desperation in her voice stung. "I know, and that's why this is hard," I replied softly, feeling the weight of the conversation pressing down on me. We ended the call with unspoken tension hanging in the air. As I sat on the beach, the waves lapping at my feet, I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't return to life as it was. I had to confront my emotions and decide what I wanted moving forward. The journey of self-discovery was far from over, and now I had to figure out if I could find a way back to her, or if I would choose to embrace my newfound freedom once and for all. The call with Jessica left me feeling even more conflicted than before. It was as if I had opened a floodgate of emotions that I wasn't quite prepared to handle. I had gone from feeling empowered and liberated in my solo adventure to grappling with the reality of my marriage. I spent the next few days in a haze, oscillating between moments of clarity and deep confusion. To clear my mind, I decided to take another day to explore. I rented a kayak and paddled out to a small island nearby. Hopping the physical exertion would help me process everything. As I glided over the water, I found solace in the rhythm of paddling. The ocean was a vibrant blue, and I felt a sense of peace envelop me. I could momentarily forget about Jessica and just be in the moment. Upon reaching the island, I pulled my kayak onto the sandy shore and stepped out. The area was serene, untouched by the busyness of the tourist spots. I took a moment to breathe in the salty air, letting it fill my lungs. I walked along the beach, collecting seashells and watching the waves crash against the rocks. It was a stark contrast to the chaos in my heart. As I sat on the shore, I started thinking about my future. Could I forgive her? Would I want to? The more I contemplated our relationship, the more I realized that her betrayal had exposed cracks I hadn't noticed before. We had swept things under the rug, each of us hoping the other would change, or that the love we had built would be enough to weather any storm. But now, I wasn't sure if love alone could fix this. After a while, I decided to head back, but I wasn't ready to face the hotel room I had shared with Jessica. Instead, I found a local cafe where I could sit and think. I ordered a coffee and settled into a cozy corner, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on me. As I sipped my drink, I pulled out my phone and began scrolling through pictures from our wedding. I had captured so many happy moments, and as I looked at Jessica's smiling face, a wave of sadness washed over me. That's when I received a notification. It was a text from Jessica, and my heart sank. "I miss you. Can we talk again?" I stared at the message, feeling a mixture of anger and longing. Part of me missed the woman I married, the one who had been my partner and confidant. But another part of me felt a creeping dread. Was this just another attempt to manipulate the situation? I took my time responding. I wanted to be measured, to not let my emotions dictate my words. Eventually, I typed back, "I need some more time to think. I can't just jump back into things." Her reply came quickly. "I understand, but let's not let this ruin everything. I love you. I want to fix this." Those words hung in the air between us, like a lifeline thrown to a drowning man. But was it genuine love or was it guilt? I couldn't be sure. I took a deep breath and decided to take the plunge back into my exploration of the island. Over the next few days, I continued to immerse myself in the beauty of Maui. I hiked the trails, basked in the sun, and met more travelers who shared their own stories, some of heartbreak and others of triumph. I felt a camaraderie with these strangers. They were all on their paths, seeking their own versions of happiness, and it helped reinforce my own burgeoning desire for independence. Gradually, I noticed a shift in myself. I was gaining confidence, but I was still haunted by the unresolved tension with Jessica. The day before my return flight, I made a decision. I would confront her one last time with clarity. I needed to articulate my feelings without the cloud of betrayal overshadowing our conversation. That evening, I sat down at the beach, the sun setting in a blaze of colors. I sent Jessica a message. "Let's meet tomorrow before I leave. I want to talk." She replied almost immediately, "Okay, I'll be there." The next morning, I felt a mix of anticipation and anxiety. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I knew I needed to be honest. When Jessica arrived, she looked beautiful, but the tension in her eyes reflected the uncertainty we both felt. "Hey," she said softly, her voice shaky. "Hey," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. We found a quiet spot on the beach, away from prying eyes. As we sat down, the surf crashed nearby, a reminder of the chaos and beauty of our situation. I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. "I've been thinking a lot," I started, looking into her eyes, "about everything about us, and I need you to understand that what happened on our honeymoon, it shattered my trust." "I know," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I messed up. I want to fix it. I love you, Mark. I want us to work. I need to know if you truly understand the impact of your actions, I continued. It's not just about saying you're sorry. It's about recognizing what led you to that point. Did you seek attention? Because you felt neglected? Did you think I wouldn't care? Her eyes filled with tears. I felt lost, but I didn't mean to hurt you. I was caught up in the moment and made a terrible choice. I didn't think you'd ever find out. The betrayal stung, but I realized something important in that moment. This was not just about her mistakes, but about our shared responsibility in the relationship. Jess, I want to believe you. I really do. But I also need to focus on my own healing. I can't go back to the way things were. Are you saying you want to end this? She asked, her voice breaking. I don't know, I replied honestly. I just know I need time. Time to decide if we can rebuild what we had or if it's better to go our separate ways. I can't promise you anything right now. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I understand, I'll give you space, but please know that I want to fight for us. As we sat there, the weight of the moment heavy between us, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I didn't have all the answers, but I knew I had to prioritize my own well-being first. Jessica's love for me was evident, but it was also entwined with guilt, and I needed to unpack that for myself. Let's take this one step at a time, I said softly. I need to figure out what I really want. We ended the conversation with a tentative understanding, a promise to reflect and communicate openly. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time since the betrayal, I felt empowered to take control of my life and my choices. I was ready to embrace whatever came next, even if it meant facing the unknown. The journey of healing was just beginning, but I was determined to navigate it with intention. After my conversation with Jessica, I left the beach feeling a mix of relief and uncertainty. There was still a lot to unpack, but I had taken a significant step toward reclaiming my power. I spent the remainder of my last day in Maui reflecting on everything, the highs of my solo adventure, the lows of my marriage, and the crossroads I found myself at. I wandered through local market, picking up some souvenirs, but more importantly, I was looking for a sense of closure. I couldn't shake off the feeling that my life was about to change, and I wanted to carry a piece of this experience with me, something tangible to remind me of my journey toward self-discovery. I settled on a small hand-carved wooden figurine of a sea turtle, a symbol of resilience and endurance. It resonated with me, as I felt I was about to embark on a new path of my own. That evening, I returned to the hotel, packing my bags with a sense of finality. I had thoroughly enjoyed my time, but it was also a reminder that I could embrace change and that I was capable of moving forward, regardless of what I had left behind. With each item I folded into my suitcase, I felt lighter, as if I were shedding the weight of my past and making room for the future. As I prepared to check out, I took one last look at the view from our hotel room balcony. The ocean stretched endlessly before me, waves gently rolling onto the shore. I realized that while I had started this journey with Jessica, I was now ready to continue it alone. The flight home was bittersweet. I stared out the window as the plane soared above the clouds, feeling a strange mix of anticipation and sadness. The memories of our wedding, the honeymoon, and the heartbreak swirled in my mind. I knew that once I stepped off that plane, I would be thrust back into my old life, into the world where Jessica and I had built our life together. Upon landing, I turned on my phone, bracing myself for the incoming messages from Jessica. Sure enough, there were several texts waiting for me, each one filled with longing and hope. It was clear she was eager to reconnect. I hesitated before responding, knowing I needed to take my time. I wanted to approach this next chapter with clarity. As I drove home, I recalled the conversations we had shared, the laughter and the joy, but intertwined with the memories was the harsh reality of her betrayal. I pulled into my driveway, feeling a sense of apprehension wash over me. Would I be able to face her, to have that important dialogue about our future? I stepped inside and Jessica was already there, anxiously packing the living room. The moment she saw me, her face lit up, but it quickly turned to worry. "Mark, you're back. How was it? Did you think about us?" "It was eye-opening," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. I need to talk to you about everything." She nodded, her expression shifting to one of seriousness. We sat down at the dining table, the room filled with an air of uncertainty. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I needed to say. "Jess, I've thought a lot about our conversation. I need you to understand that I'm still hurting," I began. "I don't want us to fall back into the same patterns. We need to really address the issues we've had." "I know," she said, her eyes pleading. "I want to work on it. I realize I've taken you for granted and I want to change. I love you so much, Mark." "Love isn't enough, though," I said, my voice steady but firm. "We need to look at the foundation of our relationship. You didn't just make a mistake. You went outside of our vows. I can't ignore that. I can't just brush it aside. I know I hurt you. I'd do anything to take it back," she pleaded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "But I want to prove to you that I can change. We can go to therapy together, work through this. I'm willing to do whatever it takes." I nodded, appreciating her willingness to take responsibility. Therapy is a good step, but I think we also need time apart to really think about what we want. I need to rediscover what makes me happy without you, and I think you need that time too. Her expression shifted, a mix of fear and understanding. "Time apart? You mean separate?" "I think it's the healthiest option for both of us right now. I don't want to make any rash decisions, but I also can't jump back into a relationship that feels so broken." She took a moment to absorb my words, her eyes downcast as she processed the reality of our situation. "If that's what you think is best, I'll respect it. I just want you to know that I love you and I want to fight for us." With that, we spoke at length about the logistics of separation, the practicalities of living apart, maintaining boundaries, and prioritizing our emotional well-being. It was a difficult conversation, but I felt a sense of relief in being honest with her about my needs. As I prepared to leave the house, we shared a long hug, both of us holding on to the hope that perhaps this distance could help us heal. I could feel the weight of the past lingering in the air, but I was determined to navigate this new phase with openness and patience. As I walked out, I glanced back one last time, seeing Jessica standing there, tears streaming down her face. I felt a pang of sadness for the woman I once loved so deeply, but I also knew that I was choosing to prioritize my own journey toward healing. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this separation would lead to clarity, and we could eventually find a way back to each other, stronger than before. Or perhaps it would affirm that we needed to build separate lives. Either way, I was ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing I was finally taking control of my own story. The first few weeks of separation were a whirlwind of emotions. It felt surreal to go from being married to living apart. I moved into a small apartment not far from our house, a space that felt both liberating and isolating. Each day was a new challenge as I wrestled with feelings of grief, anger, and ultimately, hope. Initially, I filled my time with activities, hiking, reading, and reconnecting with friends I hadn't seen in a while. I even picked up new hobbies, like cooking and painting, both of which gave me an unexpected sense of fulfillment. There was something liberating about making decisions solely for myself, about rediscovering the person I had been before marrying Jessica. It felt like I was peeling away the layers of expectation and obligation. However, the loneliness crept in at night. I missed the simple things, the laughter, the warmth of having someone by my side, and even the mundane routine of sharing a life with someone. No matter how much I tried to distract myself, the reality of the void left by Jessica's absence was palpable. I found myself pondering if we would ever repair the rift between us, or if this separation would turn into something permanent. During that time, I also started therapy, both individually and together with Jessica. Our sessions were eye-opening. In individual therapy, I dug deep into my feelings, exploring the root causes of my pain and what I truly wanted for my future. My therapist helped me recognize that while Jessica's betrayal was deeply hurtful, it also highlighted areas in myself that needed attention: my need for self-worth, my tendency to suppress my feelings, and my fear of confrontation. When Jessica and I met for joint therapy, it was like opening a door to difficult conversations we had avoided for years. We discussed our childhoods, the pressures we felt in our marriage, and most importantly, the reasons behind her infidelity. It was a painful process, but it was necessary. I saw glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with, the one who was willing to confront her mistakes and work toward rebuilding our trust. One evening, as I was preparing dinner, I received a text from Jessica asking if we could meet. I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. We had been working through our issues, but there was still an unspoken tension about our future. As I drove to our usual meeting spot, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey we had both been on, the pain, the growth, and the uncertainty. When I arrived, I found her sitting at a cafe, her eyes scanning the menu but clearly lost in thought. I took a seat across from her, and we exchanged tentative smiles. It was a reminder of the connection we once had, but there was still a barrier between us. "How have you been?" she asked, her voice soft. "Good," I replied, even though my heart raced with uncertainty, really focusing on myself. "Me too," she said, her voice steady. "I think the time apart has been beneficial. It's given me a lot to think about." "I feel the same way. I never realized how much I buried my own needs," I admitted, meeting her gaze, "and I don't want to ignore that anymore." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "I'm so sorry for what I did, for the pain I caused. I can't take it back, but I want to make things right. I want to rebuild trust." "I appreciate that, Jess," I said honestly, "but it's going to take time. We need to continue working on ourselves individually and as a couple." As we discussed our therapy sessions, we both began to realize how intertwined our healing journeys were. There was still so much love between us, but it was also clear that we needed to redefine what our relationship looked like moving forward. After that meeting, we agreed to take things slow. We continued therapy, attending sessions weekly and focusing on rebuilding our foundation. We discussed our boundaries, our future, and how we could support one another without falling back into old patterns. Over the next few months, I began to see positive changes in our dynamic. We were communicating more openly than ever before, sharing our thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment. It became clear that Jessica wasn't just remorseful, she was genuinely committed to becoming a better partner. I saw her working to prove her love, not just through words but through actions. Eventually, we decided to move back in together, but it was under new terms. We had established a stronger foundation built on open communication, trust, and respect for one another's needs. It was a strange adjustment after having lived apart, but it felt like a fresh start, a second chance. I still kept the wooden sea turtle figurine on my desk as a reminder of my journey, of the resilience I found within myself during the hardest times. It became a symbol not only of my independence but of our commitment to growth, both individually and as a couple. While the future remained uncertain, I felt hopeful. We had both learned valuable lessons about the importance of communication, vulnerability, and the need to nurture our relationship. I knew that healing wasn't linear, and there would be challenges ahead, but I was ready to face them. Love, I realized, wasn't just about the good times. It was also about navigating the storms together. And I was ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that at the heart of it all, I had emerged stronger and more self-aware. Together, we were ready to write the next chapter of our lives, with open hearts and a willingness to grow.